I'm now joined on the line by Wayne the Pocket Rocket McCullough. Wayne, if I can briefly touch on a recent story affecting the Irish boxing scene, the controversial departure of Billy Walsh as head coach of the Irish Boxing High Performance Unit to take up as a job as coach of the USA women's boxing team. What do you make of the story, and do you think more could have been done to keep hold of Billy's services?
Yeah, I don't think Billy would leave for no reason. There's a reason behind why he left, especially when you're less than a year before the Olympics. You know, he just got a world champion, the first Irish world champion in the amateurs, and there must be a reason behind it. I know Billy Walsh really well, and he's a good guy, and I don't know the reason.
Okay. And Wayne, I suppose if one has to look back on your remarkable career, where better to start than the amateur scene, where you amassed a record of 319 wins, with over 100 of them coming by knockout. You started your Olympic dream in 1988 in Seoul at the tender age of 18. You went on to win a silver medal for Ireland in 1992 in Barcelona, losing an epic final to Cuba's Joel Casamayor. What are your own personal memories of your time competing in the Olympics for Ireland?
Just getting to the Olympics, you know, it's amazing. My first Olympics, I won my first senior title. I was 17 years old, and then I went to Seoul, Korea and back then there was no funding or anything like that. You just went, you know, you had no money and you competed for your country. And then in '92, of course, I got the medal, and it was experience of a lifetime. Just to be there is unbelievable. But to get a medal just tops everything off, and then you come back, and people to this day, they never forget about you win the medal for Ireland. Yeah. And it's just an amazing feeling, it really is.
Yeah. And Wayne, in 1993 you moved to Las Vegas to train under Eddie Futch and went pro, and after amassing 17 wins in 2.5 years, you became Ireland's first ever world bantamweight champion by defeating Japanese Yasu Yakuzishi in Japan. What are your memories of the build-up to the fight and the match itself?
You know, when I came to America, you know, I was trained by Eddie Futch, and it was, you know, to be trained by him, you know, to me he was a legend. And at that time he was training Riddick Bowe, who was the heavyweight champion of the world. You know, he trained Joe Frazier back in the day, and he trained over 20 world champions. So for him to take me on at 82 years old I just felt that he appreciated me really well. And every day we worked in the gym and to get better, and I had 17 fights in 2 years and 5 months. I was quick at getting to the top, and it was all down to Eddie Futch. He taught me things every day. And going to Japan I was a big underdog, and I became the first Irish or British fighter ever to go to Japan. Still am the only one to win a world championship in Japan. So for Eddie to be there with me and achieve that was just a feeling I'll never forget.
Yeah, and Wayne, this success led to glamour fights against world super bantamweight champion Daniel Zaragoza, UK's Prince Naseem, and boxing legend Eric Morales. All three fights at the time deemed to be fight of the year contenders. How hard was it to regroup after coming so close in all three bouts to victory?
Well, against Hamed, you know, Hamed ran away from me. You know, I thought I did enough to win the fight, but he just ran. But I was 2 divisions above my weight class, and then I came back down again and fought Eric Morales, who's my good friend to this day. We stood toe to toe for 12 rounds. But I wanted to fight in 3 different weight classes, and I did that: bantamweight, super bantam, and featherweight. And I was really still only a bantamweight, but I was back and forth, and the opportunities were there, and I was an Irish guy who wasn't scared to fight anybody, and I wanted to fight whoever was out there. At that time, you know, the featherweight, super bantamweight, and bantamweight division was loaded with fighters like contenders and world champions, and it was tough divisions.
Yeah, and Wayne, this brings us on to October 2000, when after a routine medical exam, a cyst was discovered in your brain, and you were told the devastating news that your career was over and your licence was revoked. Wayne, it must have felt your whole world was falling apart at that stage.
It was weird because, you know, I go to Belfast and did a scan a week before the fight, and 6 days later they come to me, and the promoter comes to me and says, my career's over, one more blow to the head's going to kill me. And that was it. And I'm thinking, where's the result? And I didn't get to see the results. And then I go to Dublin the day of the weigh-in on the 19th of October in 2000, and the doctor sits with me and got with the other 2 doctors, and they cleared me, and they said there's little something there, but it's insignificant. And I go back to Belfast, show the doctor, who was just a medical doctor, and he wouldn't even look at the results. And of course, the British Board of Control, their own doctor had got my scans, but hadn't looked at them until 2 days after the fight was supposed to be taking place. And I didn't get to see them results until 15 months later. And the truth is, to this day, there's not one doctor, neurosurgeon, said I could never fight. Yeah. I was just told that by a promoter, and the British Board of Control, for some reason, took my license away from me. Yeah. And they actually still let me weigh in for the fight as well, which was crazy as well, because the British Board stood there and called out my weight, and they let me weigh in. So it was like a merry-go-round for me. I went back to America, got my license back in Nevada after them, and sent me to UCLA to see the top neurosurgeon. And I think it was about 15 neurosurgeons around the world, the best in the world, had said I had a cyst in my head was insignificant and there was no more dangers to boxing. So to this day, I still can't put in my head why they stopped me from fighting, because I was just 30 years old and I was still number one in the world, and it set me back big time.
Yeah. And Wayne, in 2002, your licence to box was reinstated and you stepped back in the ring under the Frank Warren trademark to fight Scott Harrison in the UK, narrowly losing before, in most people's eyes, including my own, you were robbed of victory against Mexican world champion Oscar Larios. Did you feel at that time your career was coming to an end after that loss to Larios, and was the drive still in you to continue boxing at that stage?
Well, I want to thank Frank Warren for taking me on. He took me on. I had 2 fights. I wanted to fight in Ireland, and fought in Belfast, and I fought in London first, then Belfast within 6 weeks. I wanted 2 fights quick, and I really was going to go back to super bantamweight, but of course the opportunity came along to fight Scott Harrison, and I took it, and I paid the consequences for taking a fight I shouldn't have. But I took it, and Scott's a great fighter, and then I wanted to fight Oscar Larios at super bantamweight, and the first time, and most people had me winning, commentators had me winning, but for some reason the decision went against me. But throughout my career, I won my first world championship. I thought it could have had a Zaragoza fight, the Hamed, and the Larios fight. I could have had 3 or 4 more world championships, but I can't be greedy. I got one. Yeah. I can't be greedy.
And finally, Wayne, you now train fighters in Las Vegas. Why, in your opinion, is Ireland not seeing boxers today competing for world title fights on the professional scene and on a consistent basis, given our recent Olympic amateur success recently, and the big fights yourself and Steve Collins gave us in the past seem to be a thing of the past now?
Well, the last one to do was more or less Andy Lee. Andy Lee fought in, I think it was the 2004 Olympics, and he didn't have the type of funding to have today. Now, the amateurs are more or less like semi-pro. They're getting paid a lot of money to more or less stay amateur. And in the amateur boxing, you can lose a fight but still get the same money. Where pro boxing, if you lose a fight, you're knocked back down the ladder and you have to start all over again. So I think there's a bit of comfort for the guys, a bit of security. And there's a lot of guys out there like Paddy Barnes who make a good pro, and Conlan, who just won the world championship. He can make a good pro too. So it's their choice to stay amateur, and as I say, it's probably down to the money and the security, and they're happy enough to plan for their family just by being an amateur fighter.
Yeah, Wayne, it's been great talking to you. Thanks a million for taking the call, and hopefully we can speak to you sometime in the near future.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks, Wayne. Bye.
Bye-bye.